Hello, and thank you for joining us once again. I think we are in uncharted waters, and everybody is asking, what are the likely scenarios? This is the first time that the people of Kenya have emphatically asserted their sovereignty under Article 1 of the Constitution. We've had demonstrations and picketing before, but this time round, the Gen Z demonstrations have been the assertion of citizens' sovereignty under Article 1. The numbers, the sheer numbers of people that came out, the manner in which the demonstrations were spread throughout the country. 35 or more counties were out, and in large numbers. Everywhere people are seeking accountability, actually transparency and accountability. They are seeking the rule of law. They are seeking to have their voices heard. The Constitution gives the people a right to participate in everything that matters to them. And in Article 1, people can donate their powers to institutions and to public officials. The three arms of government are the executive, parliament, which is the legislature, and the third arm is the judiciary. If you look at the Constitution, you will find that all three institutions derive their power from the people. When Article 1 says that people can exercise their sovereignty either directly or through power delegated to institutions, and I'll principally today speak of the executive and of parliament. We have seen the people of Kenya assert themselves and force the executive to take certain measures. When Dr. William Ruto told us that he has accepted the resignation of the IG, Inspector General, One Japheth Koome, he was bowing down to the demands of the Gen Z that responsibility for violation of human rights during the picketing must be taken by the top officers, and the topmost was Koome. So it was not that Ruto had any problem with him. After all, Ruto had affirmed the police. His cabinet had affirmed police action. No apology for the deaths. No statement that they will henceforth respect the right to picket or act within the law. So it is the people who pushed him to take that action. When he sent home his cabinet, with the exception of Mudavadi, his Minister for Foreign Affairs or Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, he was responding to the clear signal from the people, clear demand from the Gen Zs. Clean up. It's clean up time. We did not know, we had not experienced before the people using their power directly. We now know that people can use their power directly. And what we need in this country, it's not so much a change in the faces, it's strengthening of the institution, correcting what is wrong. And yes, leadership matters. So it is important that the persons who are going to man critical institutions be persons who have credibility in the eyes of the people, who have earned the trust of the people, who are known to follow the rule of law, to respect other people, because the way the Ruto administration has behaved, they have absolutely no respect for human life, for human dignity, absolutely no respect for the people. Otherwise, why would the people say we don't want the finance bill overwhelmingly, and they hurriedly pass it in Parliament? He hurriedly signs it, only to retract when he realizes that the people are not letting up. So how does it look like when the Gen Z are calling for strengthening of the accountability system? What it means is that in forming the new IEBC, which would help Kenya to renew the elective positions, how about letting the people exercise their power directly? Let the Gen Zs and anybody else float the names. Let them be publicly vetted. Does it make sense to ignore the people and go to their delegated agents? Because Parliament is an institution enjoying delegated powers, which the people for the time being have recalled and are now acting directly. If Parliament has failed before, because it's the one that has vetted unsuitable characters all around in all the institutions of governance, how about letting the people directly exercise their power, and instead of relying on their agent, Parliament, let the people vet directly? People can't go wrong. Float the names out there. The people will use the available means and will tell you about all the people suggested. Then we can come to a consensus on an IEBC we can trust. And cleaning the IEBC is not about commissioners. It's about the secretariat too. When you clean an institution, it's not about a person. It's about uprooting the system. The IEBC, what is wrong with IEBC, has more to do with the secretariat. That is why we've been getting the commissioners out and not getting it right. We got the Kivuito Commission out, but we didn't get it right in 2007. There were still complaints in 2013, 2017, 2022. How about cleaning up the secretariat? Get the commissioners, let them be vetted by the people directly, and let those commissioners help with a cleanup, a total cleanup of the entire IEBC, not just the secretariat, a shake-up of their top brass in all the 290 constituencies, a fresh start. If they're civil servants, they can be absorbed elsewhere. The IEBC is so critical. It is the one that will help us to renew Parliament at the national level and at the county level. People have practically demonstrated that they don't have faith, especially in our national Parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly. Yes, we have some few good parliamentarians. We have some few members of National Assembly who have been consistent. We have a few senators who have been consistent. But in totality, the two institutions have lost credibility. We have to think hard. We have not been here before, but we must ask ourselves within the Constitution, because it has all the answers, how can we get it right without inviting any chaotic situation? Anybody saying that Ruto must go, which is the chorus of the Gen Z and of many people in this country, means that his deputy takes over. That's mere propaganda. Ruto is, if he were to go today, he would not be resigning of his own volition. It is because Kenyans, through the Gen Z, have actually passed a vote of no confidence in the entire executive. Why Ruto's name comes up is because he is the head of that institution called the executive. But the loss of confidence is not just in Ruto as a person, it's in the entire executive. So the entire executive has been recalled. A deputy only takes over if a president has left, either through death or incapacity, or a self-initiated resignation, not a recall. This would not be a resignation, it would be a recall, heeding the call to step down. And stepping down is not enough for him to step down. It is stepping down of his entire administration and all its complement. So all the political appointees and himself and his deputy, that office, the presidency, has two occupiers, not one. So the call for Ruto to go is for the entire presidency and the entire executive. Anything else is propaganda meant to instill fear so that people start comparing, do we want Ruto or Gachagua? It's a vote of no confidence in the entire government. Whatever they have done together. None of them has dissociated. Just like we keep telling Ruto that whatever happened during the Uhuru tenure, he was the deputy. They did it together. If he wasn't happy, he could have left. He didn't. So they bear responsibility together. So today, don't be told that the call is for Ruto to go to leave Gachagua. Then he could also have left his cabinet. It is not true, and he understands it. That's why he has done what I would call a half measure of releasing his cabinet, because it calls for renewal. And why is he looking for Raila? Because he realizes people have lost confidence. He's trying to look, to clutch at straws for people to help him to gain strength, which he has been stripped of by the loss of confidence. I would, myself, as a Kenyan, agree with the Gen Z that focus is not on personalities. And that's why I like it when they say they're leaderless and they're partyless. In other words, they're not partisan and they're not advocating for anyone. They're advocating for Kenya. And I believe that is genuine. So let us focus on rebuilding institutions and having the country have leaders who will prioritize the interests of the people as opposed to prioritizing their own interests. This moment, which is really a very crucial moment in our history, must not be lost. We have lost over 50, mainly young people, young, intelligent, and courageous persons. We have so many maimed and so many injured in hospital, others recuperating at home. We continue to lose because every day there is a demonstration. We are being told of a person dying here or there. We continue to have so many injuries. We cannot let all these deaths and injuries be in vain. This is our moment as a country to push for a faithful implementation of the Constitution and our laws to achieve the accountability and transparency the youth are looking for, Kenyans are looking for. If we let this moment slip, it will never come back. And it's time for people of different professions to get together to see how to support this move for accountability. William Ruto must not be let to form a government of his choice. He had that chance when he formed his government in 2022. But he formed a government consisting of mostly unsuitable persons. He deliberately did that because he formed a government to serve himself, his self-interest. If he was thinking of a government to serve the interests of Kenyans, he would have looked for people who qualify under Chapter 6, leadership and integrity, people with track record or with the know-how for the jobs. But if you look at the way he had distributed his CSS without becoming personal, you will see that quite a number were totally not suited for the job. So this time round, free advice, Dr. William Ruto, any government formed cannot be your government, but a government to serve the people of Kenya. Therefore, if you are to go to that step of forming a cabinet, let the people vet the cabinet. Let them use their sovereign power under Article 1. And don't tell me it cannot be done. You never believed that you could be forced to fire your cabinet. You never believed that you could be forced to force the IG out. This is a moment like no other. You can attempt to redeem yourself, although clearly Kenyans have lost faith. And what does it look like when there is a genuine call for dialogue? Because dialogue itself is envisaged in the Constitution. I will not say dialogue, but people's participation is envisaged in Article 10. And the dialogue should not be a dialogue to preserve the interests of a few, to preserve the interests of the ruling class or political elite. It is a coming together to see what is good for the nation. How do we measure what is good for the nation? Firstly, we must be guided by our foundational values embodied in Article 10 of the Constitution. Inclusiveness, human dignity, participation of the people, rule of law, human rights, transparency and accountability, among others mentioned in that article. So a person who genuinely wants people to participate, because a call for dialogue is a call for people to participate, you would first demonstrate that you are guided by Article 10, by our foundational values. You cannot call for dialogue when you're still killing people, butchering our children, butchering our treasure, because the youth is the treasure of any home, of any nation. You cannot be destroying our present and our future by butchering the youth as you call for dialogue. Setting the climate for dialogue means adherence, strict adherence to our foundational values. So recall the killer squad. Respect people's right to demonstrate. Let the police be there to maintain law and order, but not to butcher or to injure the people. Stop using harmful agents. That colored water you are using, why want to damage our youth permanently? Let the demonstrations go on. They are peaceful when they are left on their own. Withdraw the goons. Where is this factory where they are getting rungus that look alike and look brand new from Kakamega to Nairobi? All those goons countrywide with rungus, they look like they have a single supplier. Withdraw those. Show the people that you care for human life and human dignity. Let the police guard the shops. Withdraw those goons who are looting. We know you receive intelligence, so you must know that those goons are hired by politicians are allied to you. So set the climate for genuine dialogue by obeying the law. Set the climate for genuine dialogue by getting the premier human rights agency created by the Constitution, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, to liaise with other NGOs, human rights defenders, to help identify people killed and injured during the protests by the illegal actions of the police, so that they can be compensated. Waive the bills in the hospitals, in the public institutions. Release all the peaceful demonstrators currently being held on trumped-up charges. Imagine you were able to release your deputy who had been lawfully charged and money confiscated because he couldn't account for 200 million. He was unable to explain to the court. But when you came to power, the first thing you did was to return the money to him through compromising of the court case. His land case involving public land in Nairobi, and the many other cases you have withdrawn. It is possible because it's your regime that has instigated the unfair arrest, unjustified arrest of demonstrators. Lay off the charges. Set the climate if you want people to participate. But before you even call for participation, the demands are clear. Don't stop at firing cabinet. Respect human rights and do the things that you're being asked to do to enhance transparency. Withdrawal of the finance bill is not enough because you have continued with the wanton spending. We have seen your officers from State House pleading with Parliament for more money to be released to pay for the employees of the office of the First Lady. If you told us the offices are disbanded and they're not saying they are paying terminal dues or something, just like we have noticed that a backdated gazette for the fuel levy. You cannot tell people you have withdrawn the bill and you continue to do the things that people are opposed to. This is not a climate for the dialogue you call. This is buying time. Kenya has an opportunity to renew itself in an orderly manner if you give way. And giving way means giving way to the rule of law, doing what is right, not trying to craft alliances to sustain yourself in the current form without changing any of the old habits of your regime. So anybody asking about the legal position, that genuinely from me is the position that the people can actually vet directly the persons to man our institutions. I would also like to applaud sections of the judiciary who have given rulings that show they understand the best interests of the people. Just to remind the judiciary and any other public official that whatever power you hold is derived from the people. It should be exercised to achieve the values and the purpose of the Constitution. And in case you do not remember the values, go to Article 10. In case you do not remember the purpose of the Constitution, go to the preamble. Kenyans gifted themselves this Constitution so that whoever gets a position of power and influence over the people must exercise that power and influence in the best interests of the people. People want their basic needs looked after. And that's why the Gen Z are reminding the regime, employ the JSS teachers. Because education is a right under Article 43, quality education. That's why Kenyans would want to see doctors, intern doctors deployed, because it's about their health. And health is a right under Article 43. The many issues the Gen Zs are listing are within the walls of the Constitution. We do not have to ask ourselves, how do we do this? The Constitution offers guidance on how we should steer forward. Let nobody tell you it has not been done. There has to be a first time, and this is the time to have it done the right way. Just like it is our first time to experience how Article 1, what did Article 1 mean when it meant people can exercise power directly? This is the first time we are seeing it. In the Azimio demonstrations of last year, we were saying people have the residual power. But I am very sure that in people's mind, it was not yet clear. Now everybody knows what it means for the people to be sovereign. You're given a job, you hold it at the pleasure of the people, and you cannot argue that I was elected, I must finish 5 years. No, it is not a must you finish. People can withdraw their mandate. And withdrawal of mandate is not only through parliament or through the court. People can exercise power directly. In developed democracies in the West and in Africa, in South Africa, we have seen people bowing down to the will of the people and resigning. When President Thabo Mbeki was recalled by his party, he did not struggle, he left. That was in Mother Africa. Never mind that he had not done anything gross. But because they felt he did not represent them for whatever reason, political or real, he left. William Ruto is being told by the people of Kenya, we no longer have faith in you. And he has had it, but he is not leaving. Honoring the people, respect for the people demands that when it comes to that, you leave. And if you are holding on, any of your actions must reflect that actually you can hear what the people are saying. Hear the people, stop the violation of human rights, and every move you think of how you are going to wrap this up, listen to the people and let it be within the four corners of the Constitution. And from where I sit, the best course, of course, is you exiting with your entire government. But you can also heed the people's call and ensure that every step you take heeds the demand of the people. I am seeing you struggling to buy time. I think listen to the people more, and then history will judge you kindly. To my brother, whom I deputized in the last elections, Raila Odinga, you say you are acting, you are saving not Ruto but the country. I will say to you too, then give a list of demands to set the environment for discussion. Let us hear you stand up for human rights the way you have stood for human rights before. When you negotiated with President Kibaki, both of you called for cessation of violence. So you called your support bases, and the violence ceased. President Kibaki being in charge of the country, violence perpetrated by the law enforcement agencies ceased. I was in that dialogue. The climate was set for dialogue by both parties retreating, both sides retreating. We are seeing no retreat in the atrocities committed by the Ruto regime. Therefore, sitting down in those circumstances does not serve the people. It actually may serve to oppress the people. It is your decision, but people are looking to see you set the climate. In other words, stand up for what is right and for what you are known for. To the Gen Zs, to Kenyans, this moment is very important for this nation. Let us put much thought on how we can do it right to reap the benefits of the change that is being sought, to honor the blood of those who have gone fighting for accountability, to honor those who have been injured needlessly, and to stop any other time recovery having to be treated to macabre scenes of bodies in sacks thrown into quarries, or to be treated to scenes where a young person abducted by the police is thrown into a quarry and found dead, where so many are disappearing and showing up in mortuaries dead. We don't deserve this as a nation, and we owe it to ourselves to put what is wrong right using the Constitution. For those who are asking how we can go about this, yes, there is no IEBC to hold the elections. So if the government, the entire government was to resign, and the entire just means the remnants, the three who have been left, what would happen? The steps that ought to be taken right now is to form the IEBC, and the law is already there. Let the names be vetted directly by the people. It has not been done before, but people have not. Since 2010, this is the first time people are exercising their power directly. And it is possible for the people to vet. We have seen it is possible. the communications, even for Dr. William Ruto to sack a majority of his cabinet, the call came from the communications that are coming from the Gen Z. So we know it is possible and that he can hear even when it is just on the social media. Because he withdrew the finance bill. There was no dialogue or sitting. He had. So I just want to emphasize it is doable. Do not be told it cannot be done. It is doable. And when the people have passed it unanimously, it's even more authentic than when it is passed by Parliament, which is an institution to which the people have delegated power. This ought to be the first thing that should be done. Because then it means, in the case of dissolution of Parliament, because even Parliament has been recalled, then we have an institution that can take us to the elections and let the people debate, how do we go to the elections? Those are the issues. If currently Dr. Ruto wanted to discuss, yes, I'll exit, how do we renew the executive and Parliament? If he could set the climate for those discussions, it could be one of the way forward. It's not the only way, but it could be one of the way forward. There has to be a climate in which people can talk without fear of favor, without fear of disappearance, without fear of abduction, without fear of being murdered. If this was the proposal that was being given, who knows? I don't speak for the Gen Zs, I'm just speaking as a Kenyan. But note that the proposal to dialogue, the day it was announced, it was between the political elite. The dialogue, I recall, that had been instituted for the Gen Z was the one where a Twitter space was held. The question we must ask ourselves, is this a moment for the political elite only? Were the Gen Z looking for a moment for the political elite, or looking for a moment driving reforms for the entire country? Don't be told that anything cannot be done. If it is within the law, within the Constitution, we can do it and we can take steps. We as Kenyans. And I would encourage we continue to push. Let us not lose sight of the issues at hand. And let us ask, will this lead us to that moment of transparency and accountability? We don't want in the future to again lose lives when asking that the law and the Constitution be followed. Let this be our moment, the moment in history Kenya has a complete turnaround.